everybody, Rob Ferretti here, and today I'm going to answer the question, did Acura drive the NSX into the ground? So are they killing the namesake of these cars by essentially producing and not selling these? Now, what brought this up is Jay had 2 of them, and I was like, cool, I can make a video. And I just found out yesterday that Acura only sold 5 last month. That's not good. Like Lamborghini, McLaren are all blowing them away in sales, and Acura sold 5 with a cheaper car with $30,000+ incentives off MSRP. If you can't sell your car brand new with a $30,000+ discount, you're in deep shit, to be honest. But let's take a walk through the cars and see what's different about this is an 04, this is a 95, and this is a 2017. Let's check out the differences and see which is better, essentially, which has more appeal, and try to figure out why that's not selling. All right, so I'm here because of Jay. Jay owns this place, and what do you do here? I know you do body shop, you do sales, and you do restoration. You got all of them covered?
Yeah, we do body repair, custom repair, mechanic repair.
So you've got everything. And now this is actually this is a block away from Gotham Dream Cars in Englewood, right next door to Corsa Motors, right on Van Brunt Street in the corner of West Forest in Englewood, New Jersey. So if you want an NSX, obviously there's 2 of them here. I believe that you said this was sold now though, right?
Yeah.
So if you want an NSX, this one's for sale, this one isn't. But Jay's kind enough to let me take a walk through these cars. I'm going to show you the differences, and we'll obviously see some differences. The only one we're missing here from the lineage is the first one. And the first one, the 91s, 92s, were the bulk of the production. They came on real strong because that car was like flowing out of the factory and flowing out of the dealerships back in 91, 92. I think they built, and you're going to have to give me a break here, but something like 8,000 cars or 8,000 cars per year for the first 2 years, and then production dramatically dropped. And then you went from there into this, which is, I would call it the, I think it's called the NA2, which is the NA1 was the 91, 92, 93, 94, only hard tops. They then switched over to the second generation. They had a 3.2 liter engine available, but I take that back. I know it came through, but I don't know if it was 95. 95, they definitely introduced the Targa top. And having a 95, it comes with these nice wheels, which, believe it or not, factory wheels are pretty desirable on the NSXs. These are like $200 each. Those wheels that I have on my 2004, when I switched from the HREs, these wheels, because they only made so few cars between 2002 and 2005, these are virtually not impossible to get, but they're like $3,000 to $4,000 a set. So these are $1,000 a wheel. These ones are like $150 or $200 a wheel. So it's not fair that I had to, unfortunately, want those, but it did cost me a pretty penny. But this 95 here, and it's really clean, it's a 41,000 mile car, so very desirable car out of Kentucky, comes with the Targa top. And the key to the Targa top is you can put it, and you sacrifice one key thing when you put the Targa top in. You sacrifice the view of the engine. Now the engine, I mean, there's people that spruce them up a little bit, but when you look through the glass and you see the engine in the back, that's pretty cool. But when you have this Targa top, you run into the 2 issues. One, the top gets really hot. Everything in here, since it is right on top of the engine, gets really hot, but you can store the top in here. I generally elect to put it in the trunk sometimes, but this thing I was actually missing and I had to buy it. And then luckily, I'm now an NSX expert, or at least close to it. I know the key to closing them, and I'm not going to close that right now without this glove right here, because that's hot, because that's where the engine is. That's the only way to close it. The same with the trunk. You have to, if you try, the first time I got my NSX, I looked like such a newbie trying to jump up and down, and I'm like, this trunk doesn't line up, and all you have to do is press down here where the latch is to lock it in. So almost like you're giving it CPR. But let's go over, the interior hasn't really changed very much. This one actually, you can see, has the factory everything. Factory radio, factory AC controls, really clean, factory correct car, and it looks great for 40,000 miles. I mean, this is the direct comparison that you're going to have to do with my car as far as condition, because my car is pretty close to 100,000 miles right now. We're actually think I bought it with like 86 and we're close to 100, but it's been all over the United States twice. But nice clean car, and you'll see from the gauges, from the stalks, from everything going on in here, the seating position, you'll see the difference when we move over to, let's go to my car first, and then we'll work up to the 2017. My car is essentially identical, and this is several years newer. This is a 2004, so this is almost a decade later, and they didn't really change anything. I remember, I have to check when the 3.2 liter engine became available. That's what's in this car. Most of the facelift that it got, and most of the upgrades that it got in 2002 were the fixed headlights, the wheels, but there wasn't really a substantial improvement. Now, remember, between 1991 and 2002 and 2005, cars came a long way. You went from the 348 to the 355 to the 360, and then even entering now into the 430s in 2005. The NSX was essentially the same car. So that, where it was revolutionary and an awesome handling, awesome performing car in 91, didn't carry that same performance benchmark in 2002. And that's probably one of the bigger mistakes they made by not giving this car more horsepower, because it's well balanced, it drives well, and it's really not that hard to feed more horsepower into it. And they elected not to do that. This is essentially very similar to a 95. When I was looking at it, I was like, wow, I just want a Targa top, I want a color, and I want a 6-speed. Those were my criteria. That entered me, and I think anything from like 98 to 05, I wanted either a blue, which is this, or yellow, and that started limiting, but I had my options open, looking at anything that was at least Targa 6-speed, and then I moved my way up to the fixed headlights, which I preferred over the flip-up headlights. And that's just my personal preference. A lot of people tend to go for the flip-up headlights over the fixed headlights, but for me, I grew up like this was like the poster car when I was a kid. This blue exactly the way it sits, except I put brakes on it, because honestly, the brakes left something to be desired. Now, if we're going to compare it to this car, which is a 2017, you're going to see some significant differences. This is obviously a much more modern car. Now, this is a brand new car. I think it's got about 1,000 miles on it. So if you guys are shopping for an NSX and you want a blue one, and I'm a little biased here, but blue is the color to buy them in. This one's for sale. You can check out JGA USA on Instagram, or check out Jay's Garage online. You can check out their inventory. This is obviously one of the cars that's available, but it's a fun car. And I did a review on not this car, but the demo car that Acura had. This car is all around a great sports car, but I think the problem is it's not an NSX. Now, if we just compare just views here, if we look at the back end of this car and the back end of that car, I think the older one has it. I think that screams NSX. This doesn't scream NSX. This screams like TL with a trunk lip. Like, that's not really what they were going for. And as I said in my review, this car is awesome if it wasn't an NSX. The problem is when you call something an NSX, people expect that but better, like a little beefier, a little newer, more horsepower, everything that was, but better. And Ford figured it out, Chevy figured it out, Dodge figured it out with the Challengers and the Demons and the Camaros and the Mustangs, all these throwbacks to the old popular generations, but just modernized, but the look and feel of the car is the same as the old one. Acura said, like, let's just go this way and make a whole new cool like hybrid car, but we're going to just call it the NSX because that's sold really well and that's really popular right now. Or not sold really well, but that's a really popular like throwback, and collectors were swamping and sopping all of those cars up. But if you look, I think that car looks better in the back, in the rear. It's just more of a sleeker design. You can't really compare mine to this one, but if you compare this, which is a stock car, to the ride height on this one, this is lower, it's sleeker, it's more of a sports car look and feel. I mean, it has that, like, ooh, that's a sexy car. And this is now, what is it, 20 some odd years old, and it still looks really good. You see this one pull up and you're like, that's an NSX. This one, you have to convince yourself it's an NSX, but even the front end, I mean, between these three, all very, like these two are very similar, but that doesn't look anything like this. It's significantly different. The side profile, I mean, this has got more of a hump, a wider thing. this is long and sleek. I always think of the NSX as this long rear. And this car doesn't have that. It's a short front, long rear. This portion here doesn't look like this. I mean, this almost looks like there's an engine and a significant sized trunk. And speaking of trunks, let's just take a peek and see what they're giving you as far as practicality, because why not discuss practicality while we're here? And there's the boot. This is actually very similar. You know what? I'll pop them both so you can see. Lamborghini, Ferrari, all the competitive rear engine cars, even Porsche, all have storage space in the front. And that was pretty much one of the things people always said about the NSX. It's like, why are you not utilizing the front here? All they have is this like little spare tire. Where does it go? I'm really good at this. This is my car and I don't even know how to open it. This is why we edit. There we go. It's here, if you guys are wondering. And the only thing you can fit in here is nothing. This is where that little spare tire would go, and I'll show you in that red car. And other than the Odyssey battery in the front here, it's pretty much useless. Now the battery is easy to get to, so if it dies, it's easier to jump start, but there's no storage up front here either. Let's just do the trifecta while we're here and I know how to do it. That's your little spare tire. So, I mean, you get an idea. This isn't usable, that's not usable. This is one of the things that people mentioned. It's like, oh, the front trunk isn't really usable. Now, the rear trunk on these cars, and I'll open this one in the NSX here. This has, and I can assure you, it fits golf clubs. This is a decent sized trunk. Like, I assure you, I can fit in there. I'm not going to climb in it because it's still hot in there from being so close to the engine. But it's a usable trunk. This one, let's see what we come up with 30 years, 25 years later after the original one came out. And as I learn where the buttons are, key fob. Let's see what we got. Great, got smaller. So no trunk space, or very limited trunk space, but at least usable in those ones. This one, smaller. And the engine, not as on display. Now, they didn't even get into a Targa or a convertible. Like, obviously, there's no NSX convertible from years past, except I think I saw one. Somebody chopped the top off one. It was pretty, eh. But this is not very much trunk. What do we have under here? There is something under here that it's not even smooth because there's storage under here, some sort of emergency kit. But I mean, that's not giving you much. And let's see if this actually closes the way it's supposed to. That's much nicer. At least they improved that. But when you compare them, I mean, which are you going to go with? I understand the appeal of this. I understand the fact that people are like, that's a classic car. I understand why people are flocking. I know why I came and bought this car. This car doesn't have that. And now you're talking 25 years senior to this or to that and this, and you didn't really keep any of the characteristics that make this, and you didn't, I mean, obviously it's a newer car, it's better performance, they solved that problem, but it just doesn't have that same thing that these cars have. And again, these are not fast, they're not known for being fast, but it's just the look, the top comes off, it's a cruiser, they'll probably come out with a Targa version. Is it possible for Acura to save this car? Is it possible for it to keep this namesake alive? Or is it just pile driving it right into the ground? That's the question you're going to have to ask. What do you have to do with this to make it as desirable as these, which are super hot right now, and this one is super not? And as I said, they're selling, but they're selling in that like 130, 140 range, 150 range, which is not what Acura envisioned when they started selling them at a 155 base MSRP with options. This is definitely, they've got some work to do. They have to, and with any business, you have to look and say like, all right, we have to do something differently. What do they have to do to make this car more marketable to everybody else? And they're not even producing them for the dealerships anymore. They're only producing them when somebody purchases one and orders it right now. So that is a big problem. So if you want one today, I mean, obviously you can go to a dealership and pay sticker or build one out, but there's plenty of used ones like this one out there that you can go sop up again, check out Jay's website if you're interested. There are similarities, but there's more differences than there are similarities connecting these two cars. And I think that's the big problem they had naming this the NSX. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.